Microphones are weird and I hate them, which is awesome because I work in the entertainment industry. Kim here, bringing you the writing ritual tag. This tag was created by Kim Chance and Mandy Lynn, and I'll leave a link to both of their videos down there so you can go watch them and sub to them because they're great and they give fantastic writing advice and you get it. If this is your first time seeing my face, welcome to it. Maybe subscribe if you need some motivation or just a laugh, whatever, it's Hakuna Matata. On to the tag. The first question, when do you write? Time of day, day of the week, that kind of stuff. I usually end up writing in the early to mid-afternoon. That's just when it fits in the schedule right between editing videos and life things and trying to keep my house from smelling horribly. If I'm really in like crunch time and about to finish a manuscript or I have a stricter deadline than usual, I will start a little earlier, more like 10, 11 a.m. and write through until about evening time. But if I'm not on a super strict deadline, then it's usually early afternoon. And when I'm actively writing, it's every day of the week. All of the days of the week. Just every single one. Weekends, it's just the days. How do you seclude yourself from the outside world? I have a dedicated kind of writing room, office slash study slash library slash room, work room with desk. I also have my desk angled away from the window, facing the wall. I don't have my desk facing a window because I get distracted really easily. Ooh, shiny, squirrel. So I have the window to my back and my side. I don't have it right in front of my face because otherwise I'm just looking out it all the time. Another thing I do is I keep the sound of my phone mostly off. Phone calls and texts can come through just in case it's family emergency, whatever. But all my notifications for social media and things like that are silenced. So I will get a notification, but it won't vibrate or make a sound. Like it just kind of pops up and I have to be like clicking my phone looking to see if I have a notification. It's not gonna just pop up and disrupt me. That helps a lot. How do you review what you wrote the previous day? You know, honestly, I don't always review. It depends on my pace. It depends on where I left off. And it depends on my deadline. If I have a looser, more flexible ballpark sort of deadline, then I'll kind of review and tweak a few things, and I don't even read over all of it because that would take a really long time. I'll just go over the last couple paragraphs, and then if something's kind of weird, I'll go back a little further, but I just go over the last few paragraphs, make sure everything's making sense, just to kind of get in the flow to continue on. But if I have a really strict deadline, I will just read the last couple sentences and pick right up because I don't want to take the time to edit as I go. I have a really bad habit of editing as I go, and so I try really hard not to do that. And one of the best ways to combat the edit as you write sort of problem is to not go over what you wrote. Just keep going, keep shoveling sand into the sandbox so you can build a castle. Can't build a castle if you don't have any sand, guys. So I only review if I have a loose deadline or my outline's not super structured, if I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants a little more, which isn't typical of me, but sometimes I do that. If I'm writing a really short story, I might read through all of it every time, but I try not to. Try. What song is your go-to when you are feeling uninspired? I have two different playlists depending on what I'm writing. They are movie scores. One of them is a little more techno sort of sounding thing, and most of the music on that is from the Tron movie remake that Disney did some years ago. The way Daft Punk did the music for that was just so perfect for what I need when I'm writing something a little more sciencey, a little grittier, a little darker. My second playlist is something a little more sweeping, orchestral sort of movie music. A lot of James Horner. He did Braveheart and Casper. Casper, the Friendly Ghost movie, the one that came out in the 90s with Christina Ricci. Yeah, that one. The Casper theme is one that it always kind of gets my heartstrings going just the right way. It's also got some from Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest specifically. I really like the Davy Jones theme, and I just like what they did with it, and a little bit of the third movie too, but mostly the second movie. Hans Zimmer just does a really good job. So those are my go-to playlists if I need just to kind of get in the zone a little bit. I tend to listen to different things when I'm actually writing, but if I just need that inspiring kind of song to get me in the right frame of mind, then I have that techno-y Daft Punk Tron playlist, and then I have the more sweeping epic film music movie music stuff. What do you always do when you find yourself struggling with writer's block? So I am of the belief that writer's block does not exist. I gotta do a whole video on that because man, I got some thoughts and feelings. Writer's block means one of two things for me. The first one is I don't know where I'm going with my story. I've got a hole in my outline, or I'm not really sure why somebody's doing something, that kind of thing, or I'm just not motivated and or am very lazy. It's usually the lazy thing. The first thing I do is run to Pinterest. I talk about it in this video here a little bit about my fountain of motivation is Pinterest. I can get a couple different things from there depending on what I need. I can get very inspiring writer quotes, or I can get these like get your butt into gear sort of quotes. I can also find great blog posts on the writing process and on how to do things better, general writing advice blog posts and things like that really just get me excited to get to work. So I use Pinterest both as like inspirational quotes and as finding resources and tools for writing, because both of those things will help me get to work and will help me want to get to work, which is, I think, the bigger problem is wanting to work. And Pinterest helps me want to work. So it's Pinterest, just Pinterest all the way. Really, this is a one-word answer to this question that I have made 1,000 words, but I'm a writer, so that happens. Pinterest, all the way, Pinterest. What tools do you use when you're writing? There's different apps and different writing programs and different things like that. I stick with Word. I write it. That's just all I do. It's just me and the keyboard and that really scary blank page. That's all I use. That's all I've ever used. I've never felt the need to branch out from that. If you're a writer and you use writer tools like these programs and things like that, please let me know in the comments your experience with them. I am really intrigued to see how they help you. Do they help you speed up the process? Do they help you with your creativity? Do they help you just get the words out better? Just let me know if you use those, because I am curious to see how they help people. What's the one thing you can't live without during a writing session? The first thing that comes to mind for me is video game music. That is what I write to the most. I have a couple Pandora stations that are different video games. The music written for RPG video games are specifically designed to drive you and move you forward. They're high energy, but they're not too overstimulating. It just works for me and I love it, and there's no vocals or anything, so I don't have to worry about it. Halo, Skyrim, those kinds of games, like the music for those games is both beautiful and inspiring, but it also like really motivates me and pushes me forward, and I love that. So I definitely have to have video game music. And then I would have to say Gatorade or tea, depending on the time of year. Right now it's Gatorade because it's hot as Hades outside. In the cooler times of year, it's tea. I prefer tea, but in the summertime it just makes me sweat too much and I'm already hot, so no way. Usually it's hot tea, black tea with a ton of sugar, or like a cinnamon tea or a fruity kind of cranberry sort of tea. I just really, really love tea. But I do need something to kind of be drinking, because otherwise I'll just eat myself incredibly huge. So I have a little drinky drink and my video game music, and that's pretty much all I need, other than, you know, my laptop. I need that. I could handwrite, but that just takes too long. Laptop, video game music, and Gatorade and or tea. Not and or. Just or. How do you fuel yourself during a writing session? I am a word count watcher. I'll sit down to a writing session and it's like, okay, we're gonna write this many words, or we're going to write until a certain time. Because sometimes you can't get all the words. Sometimes it just doesn't happen and you're just not quite sure and you have to go re-outline some things or blah, 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 blah. For me, I either have to say, I'm going to write this many words, or I'm going to write until this time. And then I am constantly watching that. So as I'm typing away, I peek down on my word count every few minutes and it's like, oh, we're moving, that's good. Or I peek at the time and I think, okay, time's ticking, we're doing it, it's going a little slow, but we're making it. And it sounds like it's really miserable, but it's actually not. I really do love writing, and it's just so funny because so many writers sound like we hate it because it's so grueling and can be miserable. I really do love it, like I really do. It's just really hard to do sometimes, and so yes, I am watching my word count or watching the clock, and I have a goal, and just clawing my way to that goal usually keeps me going. Sometimes I'll do some sort of reward. Hey, if you write 1,000 words, you can go read that book over there. Or hey, if you write 2,000 words, you can go watch the new season of Fuller House on Netflix. I try not to rely too much on the reward system. I just feel like it might be an unhealthy habit. So I use that only if I'm really, really wanting to do something else and it's like, okay, we're gonna earn it. And that works sometimes. How do you know when you're done writing? There's a few ways I do this. One of the ways is to just set a word count goal. Hey, write 3,000 words and you can be done. Yay! Give or take a couple hundred, because sometimes you're on a roll and you don't want to stop, and sometimes it's just not going to make it. So setting a goal, usually either the word count or the time, like I said earlier. I do it that way a lot of times just to kind of keep the flow going and to set up the routine and to just keep myself in a work frame of mind. Another thing I do is if I'm really going and it's really good, I will stop when I'm 3/4 of the way through the scene that I'm writing. Which sounds really terrible and really counterproductive, but it's actually not. It helps me a ton for the next writing session. If I'm writing and I'm on a roll and it is really great, and I know exactly where everything's going and I know exactly how things are gonna fall into place, I'll stop before I get to the end, because when I get to the end of that, I very often don't know what to do next. I will stop 3/4 of the way through so that when I go back to it, I know right where I am and I know right where I'm going, and I just fall right into it. And it works perfectly because usually by the time I finish it, I know where I'm going to be going next because I've been writing it out. Because sometimes when I'm writing this really great thing and I finish the scene and everything went perfectly and flawlessly and wonderful, I'll sit down to it the next day and it's just, I'm a little lost. That could be totally unique to me, but stopping before I'm finished with the fantastic, wonderful, perfectly flowing scene has turned out to help me immensely the next day. So I guess there are two ways I know when I'm done. I've reached my goal for the day, or I'm on a roll and everything's going really, really great, and I stop before I finish all the way so that I know where I'm going to be going the next day. I'm either done when I'm done, or I'm done when I should not be done. Logic. I'm very good at it. Those are all the questions for the Writing Rituals tag. I would like to thank Kim Chance and Mandy Lynn. Please go check out their channels if you're a writer. There's just so much great information there. Who do I tag? I'm trying to think who is actively writing right now. Ben Sanders, I want to tag you. I would like to tag Richard at Richard's Book Nook. By the way, his new book just came out and you should totally go check it out. I'll leave a linky link. Oh, and I want to tag Adrienne at Share Inspire Journey Dream because I know she writes plays and that's writing, so it counts. Not having prepared ahead of time like I should have, that is who I am going to tag. Feel free to share this video with writers you know or creators you know who are just as crazy as the rest of us writers and have our own weird tics and rituals for our writing sessions. And consider subscribing to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'll be your buddy. Subscribe. That's terrible. Never say that again. Thanks for watching.